Hello and welcome to episode 1076 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Tuesday, July 12th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I looked at our sheet. I had 74 up there. I was like, that's my last episode. You did the Sunday episode. So I got the 1076 right. And then I botched the date and I said June instead of July. I'm upset with myself. I really am. I'm an idiot. But we got plenty to talk about today. We're going to get into a few news and notes on some guys trying to return from injury. I want to get your outlook on them. Then we're going to start getting into some preseason stuff and kind of checking out how it's going, right? Things are still ungraded, but I think as we reach the break this weekend, we can start looking in on something like a fade list that we have. And we kind of start judging ourselves on certain things and saying, okay, it was our reasoning right too, right? Because sometimes you get the right answer with the wrong reasoning. And for me, I take credit off that. I say, okay, well, I didn't think that's how it was going to go. So yes, I got you guys off the track on the right path, on the right way, but I was wrong by the how. And then other times you nail it. Looking over this list, we got some home runs and we got some major strikeouts we're going to roast each other for. So we'll get into it. But let's start with some news first. Michael Brantley has no timetable returning from his injury. At his age, what sort of level of concern do you have on the shoulder with Michael Brantley? He's 35 years old with a history of shoulder issues.
I mean, I definitely have a high level of concern, but it also really hurts him maybe more than other guys because you need that volume from him for him to be kind of fantasy impactful, right?
Yes, because he delivers no real pop for outfield.
Yeah, and so he's one of those guys that, like, if he's not delivering the volume, especially to pump up your batting average and those runs and RBIs, he really becomes a lot less valuable than he normally would, than a player normally would be missing time. So probably droppable at this point in just about every format if you don't have a spot to kind of stash him.
So he got hurt. What day did he get hurt? Would he have been? Because this news came out yesterday, so I'm not sure if he should have been on the chopping block this weekend. In fact, nobody in the main event cut him. So it was he's been out for a couple weeks now, right? Okay. Yeah, placed on the 10-day IL the 28th. He got hurt on the 26th. So he's been out for a couple weeks now, and he gets this news. You mentioned probably should be cut. You'd cut him in a 15 this weekend, Michael Brantley?
I think I would.
I would too. I would too. And you and I have been a lot quicker trigger this year, and we'll just move on and figure it out. I feel pretty good about that, right? Like the one that just Colin and I are kind of hanging on is we cut Tyler Stevenson. And cutting a good catcher is hard. We did it the week that Gabriel Moreno was coming up. So we got Moreno. He hasn't really been anything. But we're like, hey, if there's ever a week to lose a catcher, how about when a catching prospect is coming up? We put a few bucks on him. He hasn't really worked out. But I don't even really regret that move. He was going to be out really long. I didn't really see the reason to hold him. We were holding a couple other guys too. Am I right in reading that you've changed your approach a bit in terms of dialing up the aggression on your injury cuts? Because I've seen it in our league specifically. Is this a concerted effort or just happens to be based on some of the injured guys you've had?
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit of both. I think part of it is I'm trying to be more aggressive with my cuts and just
to what end? What does that serve you when you do that? No, I'm not challenging you. I'm asking you to explain to people like why do you see value in being quicker on some of those cuts that are going to be long-term injuries?
Because you're not able to replace the production in your lineup, right? Like if you lose another guy on top of the guys you already have, like it just compounds the problem. Like for instance, Brian Reynolds went down, this week, right? You would put on the IL, like, and I missed the news, like, and as I'm having to take a 0 half the week in a really competitive, for a really competitive team in the main event. And it's just a huge bummer. And I just don't want to. There are going to be times where that happens, right? That isn't an example of like, hey, I have too many IL guys or anything. I just missed the news. But you don't want to compound that with holding on to other guys and then having to take a 0.
Yep.
Because you don't have the flexibility. So I think it's just, and I understand like there are going to be times where you cut someone and then you look back. We were just talking about it prior to the show. Cut Josh Winder, whatever his name is. Winder last week because he was being sent down to the minors, and then he was like the best pickup this week in terms of streaming starting pitchers. Well, that's a huge bummer, but I needed to make sure I had enough good innings the previous week in order to make sure I wasn't falling behind in those categories. So was it a mistake? Probably, but if I make 5 cuts and 1 out of 5 is a mistake, then I'm doing pretty good.
And it's probably not even that rate either. I think you're probably succeeding at a higher rate because it would take a lot of math to really figure out what's right, what's wrong as well, because you'd have to calculate what you're getting or what your opportunity cost is. So it is a little nebulous, but I lean closer toward the let's cut. And for me, it's if they're slated, like if it's a month out of the gate, if 4 to 6 weeks is the normal recovery time for the injury, they're pretty much on the chopping block unless they're, a top 3 round kind of guy. And everything has wiggle room, right? Nothing is set in stone based on the team. If I have nobody injured, everything's good and clean, I'll hang on to a Yasmani Grandal for a while, even though he's been underperforming and hurt. Other leagues can't do it. I'm not doing 3 catchers. Grandal's gone. Some asshole's going to pick him up for $4.
I think the way I do it, at least, I don't know if it's the best way to do it, is what I do is I look at the players like kind of raw projections. You can mess around it with on your own to kind of give your own personal idea of what their projections might be rest of the season. And then you actually like subtract it by the percentage of time they're expected to miss, adding on a week or two because typically that happens. And then you go back to like a guy like Brantley and you go, okay, so far this year, he's, in 277 plate appearances. He's got 5 home runs, I think 1 stolen base, and he's hitting 288, right? Okay, well, that's a really easy half season, right? So half season left. Maybe that's what he would have got if he was healthy. Mm-hmm. But now we have to subtract that. So you're really possibly only getting 3 or 4 home runs from the guy rest of the way with maybe like 18 runs and 15 RBIs. Like that isn't worth holding on to. Like,
and maybe another steal.
You can easily find that production on the waiver wire. So that's how you kind of make those decisions.
I think
and move on.
I think that's a great call. I don't know if it's the best way either, like you said, but it's damn close to really just quantify it, especially if you're really agonizing over the decision. Then do the extra work because then it can really make your decision easier. Because I agonize over decisions sometimes too, and I'm just like I don't know what the quote unquote right answer is because sometimes there isn't necessarily a right answer. It's just a choice that you have to make. So I agree with cutting Brantley. Let's talk about this next guy here, Freddy Peralta. Now he was cut in a lot of leagues. This is kind of the other way. He was cut in a bunch of leagues, and it's more of when do we start looking to pick him back up? He is okay. I'm not sure how that. Oh, never mind. I'm an idiot. He is rostered in 100% of the mains now, so people are picking him back up in the few that he was cut in. I had it on a different status there. I was like, how's it showing him in the free agents if he's 100%? But I was not seeing the team that has him. So with somebody like Peralta, he is more available in 10s and 12s. He's slated to start. They're thinking he can come back in August. Is that enough for you? Or let me say that. Slated to return in August. When do you start to look to pick up somebody like Freddy Peralta if you're chasing pitching, then versus if you just could use some pitching? So need versus I'm just kind of here. When would you pick up somebody like Peralta, who's probably still at least 3 weeks away, maybe a full month, depending on when he gets going in August with Freddy Peralta?
I mean, I'd probably start to think about it now. I'd be careful with a guy like Peralta, and this could be said for a number of pitchers who have been out like a considerable time. If we're talking about like a Jack Flaherty, though he just got moved to the 60-day, but so he's not a great example anymore. Like a Lance McCullers or someone like that. Mm-hmm. We don't know what the role is going to be. Like he's coming off of an injury. Like, is he going to go deep enough into games to qualify for wins? I tend to think he won't. And so then you're looking at it.
You think they're going to keep Peralta like on a 3 to 5 inning type of run? So sometimes he'll get a 5, but for the most part, initially 4+. Yeah.
Maybe they try to build him up for the playoffs because this is a team, with playoff aspirations. But I think they're going to tend to be pretty careful with him. That's been the history of this team anyways, to be careful with guys, especially guys who have injury risk. So I would be, I'd be a little bit more, if wins was the thing I was searching for, that he actually may not be the best stash of some of these other guys. But if you strikeouts, he's going to get a lot of strikeouts, right?
Yeah, Peralta's going to be getting Ks left and right.
And maybe even those uptick a little bit, considering if he is throwing in smaller stints, he can go a little bit harder. So, and ratio help, could be pretty decent there. So
Probably, yeah.
But there's also, the potential, because they're going to be so few innings likely rest of the way, like the potential blowups could be disastrous. So
no doubt.
I think that now's the time, because there'll be a lot of people who don't even put fab bids in this weekend because it's going to be the All-Star break. So you could probably sneak some people through.
That's a great call.
And you don't have to worry about not getting his stats for the first half week, right? So I think this is the time to do it, but also make sure that you're not just blindly going, I'm picking up the best guy in the pool that's stash worthy. You actually have to really assess what your team needs and go, will this guy help me when he comes back? Because if he is a 3-inning guy or a 4-inning guy when he comes back, he's not going to get wins, and that's not going to help. And if that's what you're needy for right now, or that's where the biggest bunches are in your league, which it is for a lot of leagues right now, wins and saves, that may not be as impactful. Even if he does come back, there's also a chance there's a setback.
That's
they really push it. Like,
yeah, what if it's a setback?
And we look at it. Jack Flaherty's a great example this time around. Is like he just kept having these it was going slow, and then he had a setback, and then he got injured again, and now he's on the 60-day, which means he's not coming back till September at the earliest. And then he's probably a 2-inning guy if he even comes back. So just you gotta kind of bake that in. Like with these kind of guys, I don't want to spend a ton of fab. Like I want to,
Nope.
I was a guy who picked up Grandal from you after you dropped him, $4. Like I do not want to spend. And that was $1,000 fab league. So
yes, that's tiny.
I do not want to spend a lot of fab because these kind of things can easily blow up, and guys have setbacks, or new injuries or whatever. And all of a sudden now you've just completely wasted that money.
Yep. I spent $9 on Tyler Stevenson. The
that's
week
great.
Before or the same week that you got Grandal off my team, and it was like, we were both kind of doing the same thing. Let's spec on something. I went for the guy who was going to return sooner, but when you got Grandal, I was like, dang it. My dream was to get Stevenson and Grandal, to get Grandal back and then have both. What a catcher tandem that would be, but instead I'm stuck with Austin Nola's carcass. Man,
no, I'm gonna have Wilson Contreras and Grandal.
That could be really nice in Chicago there. Every time the Padres go to Colorado, I get so excited because I have literally 5 Padres after I picked up Grisham off the waiver wire a few weeks back. And I swear they put up like 3 runs a game in Coors. The worst team. And I don't even have the best guy. I don't even have Machado. Anyway, by the way, think of something, the setback that you mentioned with Freddy Peralta, possible. Not saying he had one, but the potential of that. Jason would see could return in August, and he would be like, okay, mid-August is the starting point.
Yeah.
Most people see August and like August 1st. That's another thing too. Like just it doesn't hurt. It can only help to project further on the injuries. And then if they come back ahead of that, great. But if you get too excited and say, oh, it has to be August 1st, then it's August 13th, then you're
really pay attention to the verbiage there. Could return, not is expected to return.
Yeah.
Right. So this is what the team is hopeful for. It does not mean at all that is likely or will happen. Like it could happen.
Good.
He's not expected. It's not, if the team expected him to be ready in August, they would say expected.
Exactly. The verbiage is important. That's a good call. You mentioned Grandal, by the way. He'll be in a minor league rehab game on Tuesday at AAA. So I imagine you're hoping to get him back after the break.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's going to be there after the break, and I can move on from Michael Perez. And
geez, you didn't even get the 3 homers, did you?
No, you know what the worst part about it is? I have Michael Perez on that 30-team 100-man.
Oh yeah, that hella deep league.
And he was sitting on my bench for that game.
Oh, you got to be kidding me! That's the toughest part, man. With Grandal, real quick. He's been a nightmare in the 201 plate appearances. He has a 59 WRC plus, which was part of my cut with him. You see the low BABIP, that kind of a feature of his stat line because he doesn't run very well and he usually hits for power. But a 4% homer to fly ball rate was one of the reasons that I was like still feeling fine about Grandal. However, part of that is the fact that he's just not striking the ball very well. 40% hard hit and 6% barrel rate. The barrel rate is in half from last year. And even if you say, okay, well, last year was a big spike, it's still down from like 2018 to 2020 levels too, which was a 10% rate. So it's still down from that. The hard hit rate is less concerning when you frame it like that. 2018 through 2020, he was at a 41%, and this year Grandal's at 40. But it was 53% last year when he went off. Remember that second half that he had when he the last 2 months of the season when he was trying to win people leagues. So what is your expectation going forward? Do you think some of this is health related, bad luck? Are you expecting Grandal to be Yasmani Grandal when he gets back?
I mean, I don't know at this point when you're talking about a 33-year-old catcher who's put a lot of miles on him that you can go. True. He's going to get back to he's going to get back to being the guy he was. But I definitely think he's gotten unlucky. The contact skills are still kind of all intact. Maybe he doesn't hit for quite as much power as we're used to, but like I think he can be like a 250, 260 guy with above average power for a catcher rest the way, and like that has value. And he's going to DH some, get more plate appearances than a lot of other catchers will. So
I think even go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, I think it was a worthy gamble just to take a shot on and hope that
$4. If he gives you a 100 WRC plus from Grandal, you're taking that like a plus catching bat. Yeah, 100%. And lastly, Jesús Luzardo facing live hitters. What's your outlook on him the rest of the year? He's had an interesting season at this point. He was a big breakout pick, a reemergence pick for a lot of folks, which I think they should feel pretty good about if they were on him. 4.03, 117 ERA whip combo with 41 Ks in 29 innings. The walks were getting egregious at 16, which is a 5.0 walks per 9. But we saw a lot of the stuff that would make you excited about him. And in fact, I would even be fine kind of lopping off the start before the injury and saying like that's part of, because that raised his ERA a run, Justin. He went from 3.08 to 4.03 with that 2 2/3 with 4 runs because he only had 6 starts. So I think it's been mostly good from Luzardo. What do you expect when he comes back? He's facing live hitters and working his way back.
I'll be interested to see, like, as he starts to rehab assignments, like how deep he's going into games. With a guy with his injury track record, you wonder if Miami is going to be a little bit more conservative, but that's not been their kind of calling card in recent years. They've been pretty aggressive, and it's worked really well for some guys. And then Sixto Sanchez is like, that did not work well for me, though. I think he takes his own fair share of that blame.
Edward Cabrera sitting on the IL too, though. So like you said, the pitchers get hurt though, right? Like that's kind of their favorite thing to do.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why they've been more aggressive is they know the guys are going to get hurt. So why not use the bullets in the majors when they count, as opposed to like letting these guys toil in the minor leagues and potentially not delivering any value to the major league squad. Thank you. Toilet paper word of the day. It wasn't, but I mean, I think he definitely was improving. Like I don't,
Luzardo was better than last year, no matter how you slice it, even just 6 starts. He looked a lot better on the mound.
I do think that he still suffers from a lot of the same issues that plagued him in Oakland, having trouble commanding his amazing stuff, right?
Yep.
So, sometimes he can't find the zone. Sometimes he is wild within the zone, can lead to home runs. Mm-hmm. But you always want to bet on that kind of arm talent. Like, the strikeout upside is huge. Like, at worst, I think he could have, like, a Robbie Ray-ish kind of career and future.
But pre-Cy Young iteration.
Pre-Cy Young. But I also think that the Cy Young caliber is in that profile, right? Like, we saw Robbie Ray, like, he figured something out last year, and he became a Cy Young because he's got that huge upside with the strikeouts already. If he could, I think he's always going to be one of those guys that is just a couple tweaks away from being like an absolute stud, and you want to buy in on those guys.
Yeah, Luzardo's 24. I mean, people can be buying in on him for the next 3-4 years easily, as long as nothing catastrophic happens. So I totally agree with that.
You just got to stay healthy. Like, it's just the difference between him and Robbie Ray is Robbie Ray's been relatively healthy his entire career, whereas Luzardo has really struggled to stay on the mound.
That's a great call, but I also like that loose comp there of like what you could be getting with a Jesús Luzardo. So stick with them. You can start to maybe look to pick him up even at a cheaper rate than Peralta if you want. But again, he's facing live hitters. We're looking at like a mid-August type return, perhaps, depending on how many rehab starts he needs early to mid-August. So keep that in mind when you go for him. All right, let's talk some fades. We did a show where we had fades all over the place, every position except for relief, because that's always so role dependent that like whatever. So we did, all the positions and starting pitcher. We can skip the starting pitcher ones. We did not do well. The only one we got between us was the Germán Marquez from you, which there you go. Good job. But Verlander, Kershaw, and Gausman were Verlander and Kershaw were yours. Gausman was mine. We failed there. We'll talk about it. But let's start a catcher, which I think we did pretty well here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even like.
You did better than me, but I'm not sad about my fades at all.
But I thought this one was so easy. I really did. I'm not trying to be like, I can't even take credit for it because it was so easy. But Sal Perez was such an obvious fade to me. I'm sorry, Sal Perez lovers. I don't know why you wanted to invest in a 32-year-old catcher with that sort of mileage on him. Yes, he was amazing last year, but as a third, fourth rounder, you couldn't have paid me to take him. He was my main fade. And then Mike Zunino, again, even an easier fade, even at his cheaper price. The market was actually pretty solid on him to not run and overpay for Zunino, and it was still too much for me. So those are my two fades. I did well at catcher. I promise there'll be plenty to roast me on for these with the catcher ones. And then you had Perez and Christian Vázquez. So I think we all four of our catchers, we can say, did pretty well. Well,
Vázquez is fine.
No. Yeah, 5 homers, 35 ribbies, 290. So we'll say no on that. But you joined me on Perez.
But he also isn't like a great pick or anything like that. Like I don't think he, he's. I want to say he's like ninth. Cheap, right? He was affordable, but like he just actually I will take the L on that one because my main argument was I was really worried that the skills had eroded. It seems like the skills have not eroded. He's just kind of a fine catcher. Like he's like a better version of Jose Trevino, which is fine.
Yes,
like especially in a 2-catcher league, like you want a guy who's not actively hurting you.
Exactly. And on a good team, so can spike some good days just because that team has big numbers. To kind of put it in perspective about how ho-hum Vázquez is, he is 1 spot ahead of Tyler Stevenson on the player rater, despite playing all year, whereas Stevenson has 164 plate. He has like 100 more plate appearances, and he's only 1 spot ahead of him. So catcher, we did pretty well. Excellent. Let's go to first base and embarrass ourselves. So I said Jose Abreu. Whoops. Now I didn't love Jose Abreu. I really didn't, and he's been amazing. That was definitely one too where I was like kind of late in draft season. Like, I don't know, man. I would actually be kind of interested in him, but he's old, and I was like, I just want to go elsewhere at first base. I didn't have a whole lot of fades. I'm going to eat the fat out. This is not me trying to soft pedal it so I can get around it. Nope. I was not wanting to take him as the 6th first baseman off the board. And that's while he isn't 6th, he is 10th. So I'm taking a fat L on Jose Abreu as a fade. He's been great. What did you think of Abreu coming into the season? I don't quite remember what your take was on him.
I felt like he was getting a little disrespected, just because I thought he was
like me.
Yeah, like I didn't think he was going to be like a star or anything, or like get like back into like prime shape. But like I felt like he was a pretty safe bet, and I like those guys. I wish I had been more aggressive on Goldschmidt, considering what he's doing this year.
Oh my God, yes,
Pete Alonso, because like he was in that Pete Alonso Goldschmidt kind of tier,
and that's Alonso's part of why I was fading. We picked fades everywhere, so I was like, I don't want Abreu. I'm either going to go high dollar with Alonso or one of your fades, Matty Olson, or I'm going to wait for my Josh Bell, Jake Cronenworth, Jared Walsh, or wait even longer for Luke Voigt, who I was obsessed with. So I was doing other things at first. That's what made me land on an Abreu fade. But whatever the case was, it was wrong, and he's way better.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens with him next year.
Yeah, I will too. He'll be 36, maybe on a different team.
Yeah, free agent.
No shot they bring him back, right?
Not with Vaughn.
No,
I think with Vaughn you have to move on and be like, hey, thanks for everything you've done.
Yeah, they have to start.
He could retire. Like if
he might
or
go back home to Cuba and maybe play some there. I don't know what his status is with all that. How much he's here because he plays here and wants to go back to Cuba. I don't know with Abreu, but I'll take a fat L there. I don't know if you're taking a fat L on Matt Olson.
I'm not taking an L at all. He's the 16th first baseman. I'll take an L because I did draft him at a discount in my second main event, and that is not fared out real well. He's been fine.
Don't draft a fade.
I did that a few times.
The reason I was saying was because yes, he's 16th, but you don't believe Wilmer Flores is better than him, obviously.
No. It was just a matter of I wanted a different guy at the price where he was going, and same with Vlad. I'm not gonna take an L on Vlad either because while he's gonna, he's been good and he's probably gonna be great rest of the way. The fade part was I want a different first round pick, and I think you can make the argument that you could also landed a much worse.
I will say this though, on any of our top 3-4 round guys. We are early judging here because you could still take a colossal L on Vlad.
I definitely could.
We can't lose on Perez. We can sign, sealed, and deliver that one. There's a world where I'm about to take an L on Jazz Chisholm. That could come back around the other way. So we are early judging.
Absolutely.
But I feel you on not wanting to take the L on either Vlad because, again, first round doesn't take much to make that kind of correct because you say, I got to feed him. I don't want him in the first round. He's the 6th first baseman. So there you go. Everybody else that you could have gotten was better. Henry Wilson said he had Olson ranked number 2 behind Freeman. I'm pretty sure that was my ranking too. So I will join you in the L club. I didn't have Olson as a fade at all. I had him as a love. Oh no, I had him 5th. I had him high, and then I started to get worried about the strikeouts if he was going to hold those strikeout gains. So
I don't think Vlad is at this he's definitely not a bust either. I don't want to be I was right. I don't think this is an
but
L.
Fade just means you weren't drafting him. You didn't say,
and I'm fine with
that.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
So I understand you not taking the L yet. You may be dealt an L by year's end, but right now,
absolutely
keep the L away from you. Okay, got it. Second base, like I said, I put Jazz there. I'm eating an early L right now. He is hurt though. If he stays hurt or anything, I'm not going to regain a W based off of that. It would have to be production wise. It would take a lot for that to happen. I was just worried. And James Anderson, this is his guy. Credit to you, James Anderson. You stayed the course with him, even though it was a raw talent that had shown some things last year that were a little bit nerve-wracking. He was great through the first month. And then basically from that point on, after he got back from his injury, Jazz was pretty pedestrian. And if it wasn't for the speed, his season would have been pretty meh. Well, I was worried about that based on the profile that came with it. I was worried that, hey, maybe the swing and miss and kind of the free-flowing sort of profile might be a problem. So I backed off based on the plate skills. Wrong. He's 14-12 right now with the homers and steals. Even with the injury, he's played 60 games, 140 WRC plus. I will eat a fat L on Jazz. Where were you coming into the year on Jazz Chisholm?
I like Chisholm. I felt like
Dick.
I didn't end up with him at times just because there were so many options at shortstop, but I did get him, and I like the fact that he was second base eligible too.
Second short was nice there to get the 2-pack.
Yeah. I definitely, I wasn't as high on him as maybe some other people in the industry, only because of the injury history. We'd seen him just be nicked up, and that's been an issue now. And one of the ways that you can end up turning this into a W is if he gets nicked up again and misses some serious time, because anytime you get injured at this point, you're going to miss a serious portion of the season remaining. Yeah. When there's only 100 days left in the season and you miss 15 of them, that's going to be a problem. So, but I mean,
by the way, let's highlight that every injury from here forward is pretty substantial.
Is either 10 or 15% of the season, depending on whether it's a hitter or a pitcher.
Yeah, and it's going to continue to just go up. And obviously that's how it works from day one. We know that. But to pinpoint it, sometimes you really need to hear those numbers to be like, damn, that's true. And it goes back to our earlier conversation about cutting guys. So maybe you lower your threshold even more. I said a month or more. Maybe now it's 3 weeks or more I start to cut. And then in August, if you're out two weeks or more. Sorry to derail you there, but that's a great point.
Well, and that's what you need to do is really compare, hey, if a guy's going to miss 15% of the remaining season because he's going to be out for 15 days, is 85% of this player worth more than 100% of this other player on the wire? That's how you start kind of making those comparisons. But I mean, I just love the talent of Jazz, the power speed combination, even if, the average isn't great, though the average has been fine. It's above league average, right?
He's been wonderful. 254 plays all day for Jazz.
I just felt like the upside or the floor of his floor was actually higher than people were giving him credit for, because he has such great power and speed. And the Marlins suck. They're going to continue to play him no matter what, right? He's kind of turned into the face of their franchise, whether that's deserved or not, just because he's so swaggy.
I think it is deserved, and his swag is very cool.
I love it,
he and Sandy can together be the face of their franchise because, and they're not too bad. Like going into the season, I agree with you. You're like, oh, they suck, but they're 41-44 this year. They're actually playing pretty well too. So we'll see what happens when Jazz gets back. But like I said, I'm going to eat that L there. One of your biggest, like, I will not touch this guy to save my life, is Max Muncy. You weren't even ranking him, or if you were, I think it was like in the 40s.
I had him at 34th at second base or something like that.
And I wasn't as strident as you, but I was there too. I think my move up, my like, okay, fine, I will do something with him, was ranking him 25th. So I still wasn't getting him anywhere. And I still wasn't that impressed by the fact that he was playing in spring. I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm still worried about this elbow. Now, let me ask you, right now you feel great. 162, 312, 310. You're like, you're slam dunking that.
Yeah.
Are you encouraged by the recent run, or is it just a blip? He's got a couple of home runs recently and some harder hit balls. It's not even a bunch of great games. It's like a game here where he hits the ball hard. And like, I think the main reason I even know this is because I was talking him up as a fade in my Twitch chat. So I get people like, well, what about now? He had a big 114 mile an hour hit or whatever. I don't know. Everything I look at says the elbow is the problem here. And this is why you and I didn't want to draft Muncy. Does anything change on a few homers recently?
No, nothing changes.
I wouldn't think so.
And like, there's part of me that wants to be wrong, because I've loved Muncy.
Yeah, we both
absolutely do. I absolutely really love him. He was coming into the season prior to ending into last season, I guess it's the way we have to put it, not coming into the season. When we were at the Arizona Fall League, I had him as my number 4 second baseman prior to the injury. And remember, he got injured while we were at, I think, or the news came out while we were at First Pitch Arizona.
And there's worries about TJ and everything was just like scary.
So like, I was initially going to be super high on him coming into the year. But then I had to completely fade him because of what's going on in the elbow. I don't like, maybe he, is getting healthier. I don't know how you get healthier while you're continuing to play. I think this is just kicking the can down the road, which, he's got to do what he's got to do. I'm sure he's trying to get paid in the long run. Sure. And the longer he can stay on the field, the better. But he's hitting like 174.
Oh yeah. It's been a nightmare. The sample of like, is this interesting to you? Just so you guys know, is over the last like 2-3 weeks since late July or late June, 623, he has a 53% hard hit rate and an 18% barrel rate. So it's just a small stretch of some well-struck balls that some people were saying, well, is the elbow feeling better? I was like, I don't know, but he was an easy fade for me.
Here's the thing, like he may end up being better in the second half. Maybe the elbow is getting better and getting stronger, and because he hasn't like made things worse, like he's going to be better. You still banked half of a season of a 174. Like
exactly.
Even if he hits if he's himself rest of the way and hits 250, like that means he finished the year with like a 215 batting average.
I wonder if that would even get him up there.
Probably no, 274, 250, probably not. Like, but like you still banked a lot of crap. Like this is when I'm totally fine just kind of already starting the victory lap on.
I agree. I'm not sure you can really lose it.
Maybe I can, but at the end of the day, like this was the right call, because you may have dropped him. A lot of teams may have dropped him already because he's been so bad, which means they don't get the second half goodness if it is good. Like
it goes on somebody else's team.
Yeah, it's going to go on someone else's team. So yeah, I don't mind like if he's on your wire, like picking him up and kind of playing it by ear and seeing
Sure.
if, because he's still multi-positional eligible. He still plays on one of the best offenses in all of baseball. It's like there's still a lot of reasons why you can buy in. But no, if you drafted him beginning of the year, you cannot be happy, even if you got him at a huge discount with what he's provided you.
No, I agree. Max Muncy, it's going to be dang near impossible for him to crop a dub for anybody at this point. He would have to have one of the sickest second half runs, and I'd be here for it, but I do not see it coming. You also had a fade on Jeff McNeil. I think you might not be feeling as good about that one. I'm not a Jeff McNeil guy myself here, though, so I'm definitely not trying to rub your nose in it. 311 with 4 homers, 2 steals. I mean, even though it is working out, I still just is so bland to me. But how do you feel about Jeff McNeil now? You had him as a fade. He's been doing pretty well. He's sitting as the 19th second base.
Again, this is one of those like
you got him 35 though, so I think you got to take an L.
I don't know that because the rank isn't where I think he's going to finish in the year. It's like where I'd be willing to draft him. Like, how much does this help your team? Like, how is he any different than Luis Arraez? Like,
Luis Arraez is great.
Yeah,
he's been amazing this year.
You could have got Luis.
How different were their prices?
I think Arraez is going later, but
I think so too. But I'm doling out an L on this one. I think you got to get an L.
I'm like fine. Like, who cares? Like.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the most inconsequential L of my life.
Here's the thing, though. Were you even really fading him? He was the 32nd second baseman. You ranked him 35.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even a fade. Not really, but you still get an L
like,
for it. So some people
are gonna be like, "Hey, this was a huge win for me." Like, and I'd argue, is it really a huge win? Like, it's a win. Like,
depends on your team. And by the way, Luis Arraez, 39th second baseman. They weren't going that far apart, about 50 picks. 311 is 311 though, right? I'm not much for guys that are light on power or speed juice, like when they don't offer anything, like the aforementioned Michael Brantley. Like, I get where you're going from on that, but he's hitting 311. You can't pretend that 311 isn't great, and
it's absolutely, but like it's at the expense of other categories.
But if you drafted Jeff McNeil, you knew that, and if you didn't plan for that, that's on you. It's still unmitigated win to have drafted him.
I just, part of the reason I don't like drafting guys like that is that's not how I'm going to construct my team. That's part of the fade.
I know.
Sure. I'll take the inconsequential L. Whatever.
It's very consequential. Devastating. You'll never recover from that L. Shortstop. Oh, you're going to take another fat L here. It's gonna be
tough. I am. I'm going to take a really big one here. Here we go.
We're going opposites here. I'm catching a dub. You're catching an L. Again, I could come back around at the end of the year and be like, well, I took the premature L, but I feel pretty good about Franco.
My L right here is there's nothing premature about this.
Especially because of who it is too, but we'll get into that in a moment. Franco, somebody I just wasn't in on, and I go back to that category juice, right? He was, to me, he could get teens on both, like 16 or something like that with a good batting average. Like, I see how it could work. But I didn't want to pay 4th round for that. I still stand firm that I would have rather taken Witt, which I did. And obviously nothing changes based on what we've seen thus far. So I don't know. You can judge me as I'm judging you. Like, is it too early to take the dub there? Like, how do you feel about Wander, especially now that he's on the IL?
I mean, we talked about him on Sunday because of
Jason
injury.
crying.
Yeah, pretty much.
Didn't he call it, by the way, in our text chain? Didn't he say hamate right away?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think this is. I think you should be already looking behind you as you're finishing up your victory lap. This isn't the beginning of victory lap. I mean, he's going to miss 5 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's full on.
Yeah. There's no way he even comes close to returning close to value.
Yeah.
And all the people
but
who
injury was not the thing.
No, but like he wasn't good to begin with. Like
exactly. So that's why I'm saying I'm taking this off the stats. You can extrapolate the stats, and I still feel good about where I'm at. And injury just seals it.
I think this is just another reminder. Like, I love to do April victory laps and things like that.
Just because that one go for the Wander Franco people.
Just because they're funny. But if you seriously come at people in April, like some people did at us. for fading Wander Franco this year. This is your just desserts.
Correct.
Thank you for listening. We appreciate it. But yeah, no, don't come
be
at
careful.
Don't like if you're gonna come at people as a joke in April, that's fine. I think that's funny, honestly, and I do it. I make jokes myself about it in April. But like, if you're seriously thinking that April means anything in the grand scheme of a full season, here is your proof that it means absolutely nothing.
Or not your proof, but like another piece of evidence. Like, we will give you many, 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 many more. But this is why you got to be careful with that. All right, here we go. Your boy that you've hated for years, and we've had plenty of arguments about him. He hit his 20th homer yesterday. Corey Seager, 20-3 with a 245 average. The 245 average is not what you want out of Corey.
He's hit like 5 home runs this week. This is
5 straight. Yep.
Like, the narrative could have like been much different if we had this conversation a week ago.
4 in a row, 5 out of 6. Yeah, if we had done this on the 4th of July, you'd be like 230 with freaking 15 homers.
It was lower than that. It was like 215 or 220. Like, it's like
he rallied.
He's having this amazing week that is making me look stupid. This is gonna end up sucking. And not as bad, like, necessarily, like I don't think it's like the biggest L I've ever taken. I've definitely taken bigger L's or anything like that. And I stand by my rationale. He still isn't running. Like, the batting average isn't good. He's just powering his way into relevancy. But I think this was something that was in the cards. Part of my reason, and Correa is the other fade.
Yeah, let's add Correa in here with your other fade.
This is I don't want shortstops who aren't going to run. He's got 3 stolen bases, which is more stolen bases than he usually gets in a full season. That was probably
like Seager's yearly projection there. So you don't even have to take the L on that part.
He hasn't stolen 3 bases in a full season since 2017. So like my rationale was fine. He's just hitting his way past other guys power wise, and good for him. Like
he's crushing. And don't be surprised if that batting average goes way up.
Absolutely.
239 BABIP, but he's still striking out at 16%, which is really good.
The crazy part, his XBA is 304.
Oh my God, I've never seen one that far away from an average.
So, I have, but not this late into the season. Like, this
That's
so like he could actually be like, some people may want to try to sell high on this hot streak. He's actually probably a buy right now.
A buy high, I agree. Corey Seager, buy high. So on Correa, you had similar stuff, injuries, doesn't run, L-ish on that one. He's hitting 278 with 10 homers in just 64 games. So he's been pretty good when he's played, but one of your major reasons with Correa was definitely injury, and that has played a role. So and
Seager as well. So like, honestly, I'm going to kind of take a wait and see on. I'm not taking an L or a W on Correa. I mean,
Correa's moot right now, or like just even. Keep it even right now,
because he's kind of doing exactly what I anticipated he'd do, which is be good or decent when he's on the field without stolen bases. But how much is he going to be on the field? It's exactly how his season's played out so far. We'll see how he kind of finishes. Seager, I'm ready to take that L. Like, I'll take the L.
Third base, we can skip that one. Nothing good happened there.
Oh, no, because I was right on this one.
No, let's go ahead and go to outfield here. I guess there was no third baseman out there. So, okay, I said Austin Riley. That one.
Which is funny because both of you guys have played outfield before. So
that's true. It works. Austin Riley and Kris Bryant. So this is the opposite of shortstop, where I won, you lost. I'm losing, you're winning, because yours was Kris Bryant. You didn't want anything to do with him, even though he's going to Coors, all of it. You said, just hit his first home run the other day. Like I said, I was off on Austin Riley, and I'll tell you the main reason that I'm definitely ready to take the L right now, and it could change, right? Of course, because batting averages can change, but batting average was my big concern. Of course, I thought he was going to still hit the power. I tell the freaking AA or the Arizona Fall League story every time I talk about Austin Riley, about how the sound is different off his bat. But I thought it'd be like 30 homer pop with like a 250 average. Well, he's got 25 homers or 24 homers a week before the break with a 282 average. So I'm eating a fat L on Austin Riley. He's just a G, and I was wrong. There was no batting average fade at all. Wrong.
Yeah, no, he hits the ball so hard, and he actually makes really good contact when he makes contact within the zone. Like, it was just, and what he's done, like, in spite of the like guy he was when he first came up, like, he's kept that strikeout rate at a respectable level. Like it's just,
25, 26 is workable.
I wasn't in on Austin Riley. I wish I was. Like, I mean, I think this is one of those like cases where like
big reason for me though too. I was like, we're paying full freight.
It wasn't though. It wasn't that bad.
I don't know. I thought it was like a top 60 pick.
I think it was
really.
Outside the top 60. Yeah.
Minimum 50, max 98, average pick 79. Okay, so it just makes it worse. By the way, just makes it a worse L for me. So I'll eat that. That's 6th round. That's fine for Austin Riley. I felt like he was going a bit higher there, but I have misperception on that.
I mean, and his ADP in the main event was 79.
Yeah, I was going off main event.
Oh, okay, you were going off main.
Yeah, so I'm just eating colossal L on him. Kris Bryant, you're getting a fat dub on that. He had bounced up to the 5th third baseman, 53rd pick because of Coors. I was definitely in on that too. Wrong. I got saved by everyone loving him, but I promoted him, so I'm not going to, just because I don't have him on a bunch of teams, I'm not going to say and backtrack now and be like, no, I didn't even like him. Here's the interesting thing. He is still hitting 310. Like, he does still have a good batting average.
And it's only 124 plate appearances too, because he's missed so much time.
I'm looking at it right now. Maybe should you take the dub just yet?
I don't think I'm taking the dub necessarily. Well, I am in some regard, because I did talk about his injury history.
The time, and
feeling very just uneasy about like his health.
So, I still say you take a dub there. He's played 29 games. Kris Bryant has, so I think that's fair. But he is hitting well.
And I didn't even know he was having a baby midsummer.
I didn't know. Is he having the baby? So he hit his first homer on July 5th, believe it or not. It wasn't even in Coors. In fact, all 4 of his homers have come on the road, but they've come in quick succession. So 4 homers since July 5th, 300 average, 363 OBP, 473 slug. So the production is there, but one of your main reasons was injury. So I'm going to give you the dub on Kris Bryant.
I mean, he could have a massive second half. I
still think your general point holds because he's only missed a month plus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, this is one where I'm not I'm just kind of walking around the victory lap. I'm not running full speed, carrying the flag and everything like that. The Chicago W flag.
You're like, I feel good. I feel good. Thanks.
Yeah, this is when we're okay, I was right. I'm gonna kind of keep quiet about it, because if he hits fucking 25 home runs in the second half with a batting average, it's gonna look really stupid. But
especially because, unlike Muncy, a lot of people held Bryant. Like the people that
Bryant, I don't think anybody does do that.
They will get that Bryant love in the second half. Let's talk outfield. I had Myles Straw and Eddie Rosario. You had Byron Buxton and Mitch Haniger. Interesting class there. I think 3 out of 4.
Hey, 3 out of 4 we're doing great, right?
Yeah. So Buxton, obviously health would have been your main thing, so you weren't 1,000% wrong, but he's been so good when he's played that I think you got to eat the L there. But 3 straight dubs with Straw, Rosario, and Haniger. And Haniger, you did say injury, and I tried to disabuse you of that.
This is this year's Craig Kimbrell.
This year's Kimbrell.
I was fading the hell out of Haniger, and I let you and Dave talk into drafting him in multiple spots.
We were right. We were right. It's fluke injury.
Jokes
aside, I honestly don't feel bad about being in on Mitch Haniger. I took him everywhere too, because these are not chronic injuries. Now this year he's had more of standard injuries, but the busted nut and stuff like that, come on. I just didn't see him as some major chronic injury health. Well, he got hurt and then returned and got hurt the day he returned. He got a hit in the first inning and then got sniped out of the box. Did that thing where he totally buckles and you're like, oh God, what the hell was that? And it was a grade 2 ankle sprain. So that part is definitely very bad. Oh, it was COVID was the other thing too. So this is the only injury, but it is an injury. That was your big reason. I'll give you your dub on Haniger.
And yes, Buxton has 23 home runs. He's hitting 215.
I know.
People forget since that first few weeks of the start of the season, he has done nothing but he's hitting for power. Great.
Get to the other category though, even worse.
He's not stolen base. Dude,
Yeah.
This was one of my arguments too. Like at the beginning of the season was like, hey, are we sure he's going to go back to running? Because like he I don't know. Like that. I don't know if it's necessarily a huge part of his game anymore. Yeah, like I'll take kind of an L on Buxton.
Why don't you just take a wait and see?
Yeah,
because the speed component, I'll give you that. But he does have the 23 homers, and
it's the 48 runs already and 42 RBIs on top of the 23 home runs. Like he could be like almost like a 50, 100 guy at the end of the season. And so if he's still hitting 215, you still go 50, 100. I'm going to take that all day.
50, 100 with 5 steals and a 215. If he could somehow miraculously pull that off, you wouldn't care. You'd be like, okay. Yeah. Fine. So, we'll wait and see on him. But the others are pretty good. Myles Straw, you talk about position or player types that you don't like to take, like Jeff McNeil types. I'm out on rabbits. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got 13 steals, but he does not even having the batting average this year. 211.
He's been gone homers. Otherwise. Yeah.
What's the scope?
And losing playing time. Like he's like,
understandably, what's the deal on Straw? He's the 90th ranked outfielder. You weren't gaga for him, but you didn't hate him. You said you'd take him if it kind of landed to you. What's the deal with him? How do you feel about Straw right now? And would you cut him, or do you have to keep those steals at all costs?
I think, unless you're going to start punting stolen bases, like I think you have to hold on to him either way. He has gotten a bit unlucky, and he still has the same kind of in-zone contact skills. So I'm surprised he is hitting as poorly. I think
Do you want to know his May and June BABIPs? 203 and 194.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That seems pretty egregious for Myles Straw, who's pretty freaking fast.
You said since the beginning of
May was 203, June was 194. Those were his BABIPs, and he hit sub 180 in both of those months.
Okay, so he had a 199 BABIP over the course of those 2 months.
That's pretty egregious, no?
Yeah.
Is he a buy low if you need speed, Myles Straw?
I think he could be, honestly. Like I said, like even in that time, like he still has a 91% zone contact percentage. He doesn't swing outside the zone. 20% outside the zone swing rate. The hard part is he just doesn't hit the ball hard, and he goes on the ground quite a bit. And so, like, I don't think we're gonna get like a big huge batting average jump, but I do think he can be what you drafted him for, which is 30 plus stolen bases with an average that isn't going to hurt you. Like, I don't think he's going to, or even 250, 260, 30 home runs. Like, I think
30 steals.
30 stolen bases. He definitely will not have, he may not have 3 home runs.
He won't have 30 home runs in his career.
Yeah.
So Myles Straw, as much as I didn't like him at the draft table, part of the reason is team construction during a draft. But now that you know where your team's at and how everything is going, I might be open to trading for Straw because this seems like a pretty egregiously low BABIP. Yes, he hits the ball weakly, so that can lead to a lower BABIP just because you're hitting such playable contact. But for somebody with this speed who's shown bat-to-ball skills,
he's got a career 309 BABIP.
So 255 for the year just doesn't seem right. If you need speed, I think you go for it. I think you go for a buy low.
I think he could steal 20 bases the rest of the way.
Absolutely. He could do more than that. We saw what Birdie, why can't he just be Birdie? Like he could. Mm-hmm. Like Birdie is the same profile. It's the same thing I said, Twins fans got so mad when I said Arise is Stephen Kwan. And, a lot of that's playful, but like I'm talking about player archetype. Birdie and Straw are very similar. Birdie is maximizing what that player type can do. Straw is kind of on the other end of it. So don't be surprised if Straw pops off.
He stole 17 bases in the second half last year. So
there you go. Eddie Rosario was my other fade. I'm not going to take a full dub on that yet, just because it's kind of a TBD because he's missed so much time. We have to kind of see how he goes with his new vision since returning. It hasn't been good so far, but it's been obviously a very minuscule sample of about a week. Let me see here. It's been 27 plate appearances, 192, 185, 309. If you wonder how your OBP is lower than your batting average, it's if you have a sacrifice fly mixed in there and the way it works. But how do you feel about Rosario the rest of the year? Was he somebody you liked coming into the year? And are you trying to buy him where available for the second half?
I mean, I was kind of ambivalent on him coming into the year. Like, there were some people who were really excited. There were some people who were just kind of like totally fading, like you. I didn't end up with him very much. I have picked him up in a few spots. With him being recalled, got him in cheap and tout ors, I think for $1 or $2, and then I got him, I think, in one of my mains or one of my other fab leagues. But yeah, I mean, I've liked Rosario in the past. I feel like he traditionally is a pretty underrated hitter, but I think his price is a little over inflated last year because of what he did in the playoffs.
Exactly. That was a big part of my fade, was just that he got pushed up too high.
Yeah. So, he's a guy that I'm kind of continuing to monitor, in deeper leagues. I've already, like I said, already picked him up. So far it's been kind of ho-hum, but we're talking, like, I think he said 27 plate appearances so far. Yeah, like that's just nothing. So yeah, but he's already got a home run and stolen base in those 27 plate appearances.
Exactly.
So that's a start.
So it's something, and like I said, he got his eyes fixed. So I like Rosario off the wire. I'm interested there. It was draft capital was a main reason for my fade. I just thought he was too expensive. So, all right. And then starting pitcher, I hinted at it at the beginning. It's just fat L's all around. You can take your Marquez dub, but that one was kind of like, don't draft Marquez.
You know what the worst part about Marquez is? He's actually been way better at home.
I know. So you literally can't get anything out of him.
You legitimately could have only gotten his bad stuff and not any of like the good outings that he's had.
That is so brutal. But we
Rockies pitchers, man. Outside of Chad Kuhl, get Chad Kuhl out of Coors. He's been great for a Rockies pitcher, and he's on a 1-year deal, so like get him out of Coors at the trade deadline.
I was obsessed with this dude in Pittsburgh, the best pitchers part, or one of, and he couldn't do anything. He goes to Coors and has his best season. It's weird, but I agree he's a good trade candidate. We are going to do a trade preview episode during the All-Star break, for sure. So we will do that. But it was Gausman for me. Fat L. He's been great. I did not think he was going to revert all the way back to Baltimore days. I did say, hey, it's been a year plus. Because 2021 plus the 2020 season of quality work with one of the best teams in the league, San Francisco. He's not going to instantly forget everything, but the very difficult division, worst park. I was nervous. I was wrong. Kevin Gausman's a G. You've already taken your Verlander L. He and Kershaw were two of your fades. They're probably similar, just old crusties that you were nervous of. They've both been great when they.
It was all injury related.
And Kershaw did get hurt, but he still has 63 innings. He was hurt for like a brief period.
I definitely will take the L on Verlander. I think even if Verlander like goes down tomorrow, for the rest of the season, like he's just been so dominant.
Don't put that out in the world, you
little shit. I'll knock on some wood right there.
Thank you.
But Kershaw, I'm starting to take the L, but I'm not fully grasping it yet. I want to see him get through the rest of the season. I know you want. It's already hit the IL once.
But what level of performance? Because he's much better than last year too. 355.
Yeah, he's been great.
102 last year. He's down to 240 and then 1 flat this year. So the WHIP isn't as improved, but the ERA is. So is there?
To be honest, if he gets to 130 in innings wise, I'm taking that out.
Okay, that's fair. So he has to double what he's done.
Yeah, he's got to do at least what he's. I mean, he doesn't have to like do it at the same rate necessarily.
Yeah.
But if he is not bad and throws another 65, 70 innings, then I'm taking a fat L. That's fair. And I'm totally fine with that. But there is still a reasonable chance that does not happen. It's already been injured once this season. It was a kinetic chain injury, which is always a little bit scary. So I'm not ready to take the L, but I'm looking at it, this is me on the Titanic with the little telescope thing, going, hey,
what is that over there?
That Kershaw-shaped iceberg over there doesn't seem so bad.
I feel like we're headed straight for it.
Should we move? Maybe we should move. So
a little bit veer, just a veer, maybe not even a turn, a veer.
No, let's just run it right over.
Let's just go, dude.
There's definitely potential where I'm going to be like screaming as the boat goes down here in about a month and a half. But I also at the same time, I stand by the rationale,
and that's the thing too. We talk about this a lot, right? Like, did we have bad process? Like going back even to the Badu one, anyone who didn't like him as much as I did, nobody told me he was going to get sent down after 55 plate appearances. Nobody was saying he's not going to play. They said he might platoon, which I agreed. He would sit some against lefties, and he's young, so he's an open book. Like, they don't know what they're going to get out of him. So I don't think my process was completely off on him, but I take the L, of course. So your process here was to be nervous of two crusty ass old pitchers in Verlander and Kershaw who will cost a premium. And there's nothing wrong with that process. So yeah, you take the L on Verlander and you're inching toward the L on Kershaw, but I agree with you. I think it's fair to point out that your process is still fine, and fading 35-plus-year-old pitchers as a general rule is going to continue to work, at least with Verlander. Kershaw's 34, but you get my point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you look at some of the other pitchers like Clevenger, like how's it worked out? He was going in the same area as like a Kershaw and a Severino. Severino has, fading Severino hasn't worked. But fading.
I don't blame you on that though either.
Yeah, fading Clevenger has worked. And I think you could argue you definitely did not get what you thought you were going to get out of Thor if you drafted him.
No,
though he's been
me out.
Fine-ish. Like he hasn't actively hurt you in the way that other guys have. So like
he's disappointing. He's not a bust, because 384 117 is good, but
for the risk you took in drafting him where you drafted him, like it hasn't blown up in your face, but it's like one of those little firecracker duds. So it hasn't like blown your hand off or anything.
Don't pick it up.
But yeah, like you look at it and goes, well, that was disappointing. Like that's not what you were hoping to get when you tried.
But then what if it's one of those late ones where the fuse keeps
It could. Yeah,
like, oh, shit.
It absolutely could. The Angels are just hoping they can trade him before the deadline.
Right.
Before that, it completely blows up.
I still can't believe they fell apart. But anyway, we will talk trade stuff.
I absolutely can, and I also can't. Like you have two generational talents on your team, and
Taylor Ward doing an imitation of both of them, like hitting his ass off. So you have three superstars atop their lineup. Put me, you, and five others in like, or would that be four? I guess. Yeah. Why are they so bad? I hate
$21 million on Syndergaard. They could have spent how much to get Scherzer? Like, I mean,
right?
Like.
I don't know, man. I don't know what their choices are. But they were doing well though too. And then they had a 14-game losing streak. That's just going to decimate you every time. But anyway, we got to get out of here. We'll talk something else on Friday, and then next week we will do a trade preview episode highlight. We might do ALN now, and depending on how it breaks down, I'll do some pre-work there to kind of figure out how deep the list is going to be of candidates. But Justin, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you on Friday. Are we going early?
Yeah, early.
Okay, great.
6 o'clock in the morning, my time.
6 o'clock for you. You're wild, but I will be up in time for that. Don't worry. All right, good talking with you. Take care.
Hey, before I actually go, Potapalooza.
Oh yeah.
Let me just give a quick promotion job. Potapalooza 2-day event going to be on July 23rd and 24th. Going to be raising money for charity. Haven't decided yet on which charity is going to get the money, but for every dollar
bank account charity.
No,
that's a good charity, dude.
For every dollar you donate, you get a raffle tickets to win some really, really cool prizes. Got an email last night from Tanner Bell, who's he can't be on, but he's like, hey, I'll donate 3 books of the process that him and Jeff Zimmerman did. A bunch of subscriptions to places like Masters Ball, Pitcher List, places like that. T-shirts, bobbleheads, other cool prizes I'm sure will be donated. Also, for every $1,000 we raise for charity, I will give away a spot for TGFBI for next season. So if you've ever wanted to be in TGFBI, last year we raised $8,000. So we got 8 people in for this year. So I'm hoping to come somewhere close. Usually this is done before the start of the season. I'm doing it this year kind of all-star break, second half-ish, because of the late start to the year and not knowing when it was actually going to start.
Yeah, no idea.
You can donate via PayPal, justinmasonfantasy@gmail.com, or via Venmo @Justin Salinger. Just make sure
if you want.
Just make sure you send it as a family or friend so I don't get taxed on it.
So you don't get blasted for all of them.
They changed the rules on PayPal, and if it's not sent as a friend and family, you get hit with taxes as income, and I don't want to get hit with taxes for charitable stuff. So it'll be live streamed on Twitch, YouTube, my Twitter. And if Paul lets me, maybe I'll even put it on Fangraphs for those days.
I have no problem with that. And
Sweet.
maybe we could even do the Fangraphs Twitch channel. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But yeah,
Nice.
Podpalooza, it's going to be awesome.
A lot of awesome people. It's gonna at 10 a.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday. Paul's coming on, Jason's coming on, Nick Pollock, Scott Chu, Todd Zola. I've already got, I think, 30 people who've signed up in the first 24 hours of the signups. So yeah, definitely help come support that. All the money that's raised goes to charity. I'm not taking a dime of it. And we're gonna have a lot of fun, talk a lot of baseball. So
it's gonna be a blast.
If you have a charity suggestion, feel free to tweet it at me. Because and especially if it's a smaller charity where a few $1,000s will go a long way. Really, that's what I like to target. So that way it's not going to like post-it notes to a big organization or anything like that. So.
Great call, man. I can't wait. Podpalooza is always fun, so I'm excited to be part of it, and it's going to be a blast.
Yep, it's going to be an absolute blast. It's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely tune in, donate, and it will also be available on replay. So if you can't watch live, you can watch it on my YouTube. You can watch it or listen to it via podcast on the TGFBI feed.
Perfect. All right. Well, Justin, have a good one. I'll talk to you on Friday.
Take it easy.